Hi, I'm Marcus Hollis. I'm 31. And last week, my brother lost his brand new SUV, my parents lost their financial safety net, and I lost a $15,000 Christmas bonus, for exactly 72 hours. My father's 60th birthday dinner was supposed to be simple. A little cake, some warm stories, the usual mid-tier Italian place with too much oil on the breadsticks. I even bought him a watch, nice, not flashy, but something he'd appreciate. At least, that's what I thought. I showed up and saw the banner before I saw my own mother. "Congrats on the new car, Tyler!" Red and gold letters stretched across the living room wall, like the end credits to a movie I didn't know I was in. Beneath it, balloons, a framed photo of my younger brother leaning on a black SUV, and more people congratulating him than I've ever had at my own birthday parties combined. My mother walked up, smiled like she was proud of herself, and said, "We used your Christmas bonus. Tyler actually earns happiness." I didn't yell. Didn't throw the watch. Didn't cry. I just nodded and said, "Understood." What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had noticed a $15,000 withdrawal 2 nights before. I hadn't said anything yet because I needed to be sure. Needed to see it with my own eyes. And now I had. That night, while they celebrated Tyler's new ride, I drove home in silence. I opened my laptop, logged into every account I'd ever shared with them, and began. First, I froze the $15,000 withdrawal. The funds hadn't cleared yet, thankfully. Then I made a spreadsheet. 6 years of helping them. $87,416. Mortgage. Utilities. Medical bills. And Tyler's hobbies turned careers turned hobbies again. I was their son. Their planner. Their provider. Their invisible backbone. Their wallet. That was about to change. Monday morning, I woke up before sunrise and got to work like it was any other day. Shower. Tie. Coffee. But I wasn't going to the office early out of dedication. I was going to war. First call the bank. I told the rep I wanted out of the joint account. She hesitated when she saw the names on the account. Patricia and David Hollis, correct? Correct. You'll need to close the account entirely if the other parties won't consent to your removal. Close it, I said. There was $63 left in the account. 63. Out of over 87,000 I had put in over the years. The rest was gone. Tyler's gym memberships, apartment deposits, crypto phases, moms, emergency, vet bills for a cat they gave away 6 months ago. I knew where every dollar went. I had receipts. After the bank, I called the credit card company. Removed both my parents as authorized users. Next, car insurance. Tyler's name, my card, for 3 years. I canceled it effective immediately. Paid the fee just to be sure. The agent asked if I wanted to transfer the policy. No. He can figure it out. Then utilities, gas and electric. I was still an authorized payer on their accounts. Not anymore. By lunch, I had surgically detached myself from every financial string they had tied around my neck. But I wasn't done. I drove straight to the dealership. I need to see the financing on a black SUV purchased last Friday. Buyer's name, Tyler Hollis. The manager smiled, then frowned when I asked about co-signers. Well, yes. Marcus Hollis co-signed. I stared at the screen. I didn't. He printed the paperwork. The signature looked like mine if you squinted after a bottle of wine. The M loop was off. The angle too steep. It was forgery, and I told him so. Sir, he said, eyes wide. If that's the case, we'll need to revoke the co-signature. That will trigger a loan recall. They'll have 72 hours to secure new financing or return the vehicle. Do it. I signed the affidavit right there. Walked out with the recall notice in my hand. Sat in my car. Turned on my phone. 17 missed calls. All from Mom. The first text. What did you do? I blocked the number. Started driving. The net had been cut. The clock was ticking. The SUV wasn't Tyler's anymore. And by the time he found out, the celebration would be over, the candles blown out, and the bill long overdue. By Tuesday morning, the dominoes started falling. At 9:15 a.m., I got the email. Joint account closure complete. Remaining funds transferred. $63.00. Just enough to buy Tyler a tank of gas and maybe a bottle of Tire Shine. At 10:04 I got another. Authorized users removed from Capital One credit account. Their Netflix would stop working soon. Spotify family, dead. No more late-night Amazon Prime impulse buys or accidental grocery orders that always charged to my card. At 11:32, an insurance notice. Vehicle policy cancelled effective immediately. Tyler was driving uninsured. Not my problem. By lunch, the dealership confirmed. Loan recall notice delivered. Buyer has 72 hours to secure new financing or return vehicle. I sat at my desk eating leftover chicken while my inbox lit up like Times Square. It was like watching the scaffolding collapse in a controlled demolition. Texts. Emails. A voicemail from my father saying we needed to talk like men. Another from my mother accusing me of torching the family over a misunderstanding. And Tyler? He texted from a number I didn't recognize. Bro, WTF? I'm literally trying to build something here. You just sabotaged me. That car was gonna be part of my image. I had plans. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I drove by the house that afternoon. Parked down the street. Watched. The SUV sat in the driveway like a glittering trophy no one had earned. Tyler came out yelling into his phone, pacing, gesturing wildly. He looked like a man trying to argue with gravity. Then Mom stepped outside. She stood next to the SUV with her arms crossed like she could will the situation back to normal. Like a good old-fashioned guilt trip could plug the financial hole I had just drilled through the floor. 10 minutes later, Dad showed up from work. Still in his uniform. He didn't even go inside, just stood there reading the loan recall notice Tyler waved in front of him like it was a parking ticket. The three of them huddled like survivors after a flood. And I didn't feel anger. Or guilt. Just distance. For the first time in my life, I wasn't in the circle with them. I wasn't holding the umbrella over their heads. I went to a nearby cafe and ordered a black coffee. The girl at the counter complimented my shirt. I smiled and said thanks. My phone buzzed. Email from the bank. $15,000 dispute resolved in your favor. Funds restored. I checked the balance. There it was. Every cent of my Christmas bonus, back where it belonged. I took a long sip. The financial scaffolding was gone. By Wednesday morning, they were drowning. And I hadn't even started on the receipts yet. Wednesday afternoon, I printed everything. Not out of spite, out of habit. I'm an ops guy. I track things. I organize. If I ever had to explain this to anyone, I wanted more than just rage. I wanted records. So I sat at my desk and compiled 6 years of transactions, communications, screenshots. Color-coded folders. Tabs. Highlighter. I made one section just for Tyler, Venmo transfers labeled T-checks bro emergency. And once, no joke, just the eggplant emoji. One labeled miscellaneous joy. Another for recurring expenses, insurance premiums, utilities, their internet bill, and the PayPal account I had unknowingly funded for my mom's online garden gnome collection. At 3:40 p.m., a voicemail from Dad. He sounded tired, his voice lower than usual. Marcus, it's Dad. We need to talk. There's some kind of mistake with the bank. Account's gone. Credit card's not working. Just call me, okay? I didn't. At 4:15 p.m., my mother used a neighbor's phone to call me. I let it go to voicemail. I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is ridiculous. You're punishing the whole family over a car? You need to fix this. Call me now. I filed it under a new folder, emotional leverage attempts. That night, I opened Tyler's Instagram. I hadn't looked in years. There it was. A carousel of photos with his new black SUV. Him leaning against the hood like he just won a Grammy. Him sipping overpriced coffee in the driver's seat. Him posting from a mountain overlook captioned, "Finally driving in style. Hashtag blessed, hashtag family comes through, hashtag work hard, play hard." Another post the day after. "Grind doesn't stop. Big things coming. Stay humble." My mom had even shared it to her Facebook page with the caption, "So proud of our boy. He deserves everything good. Everything good. Bought with my money." Screenshotted. Saved. Thursday morning, I got the email from the dealership. Buyer has failed to secure alternative financing. Vehicle repossession scheduled for Saturday. That same morning, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I picked up. "Hello? Marcus. It's Dad." I said nothing. "We need to talk about what you've done." "I know what I've done." You destroyed everything. The car is being repossessed. Tyler's humiliated. Your mother, she can't stop crying. I waited. This is about more than money, he said. You're tearing this family apart. You tore it apart when you decided my bonus belonged to Tyler. There was silence. Then, he needed a win, Marcus. You've always been fine. You're solid. Stable. You don't need the celebrations. But I deserve to be asked. I deserve to be seen. Another silence. What do you want? Huh? You want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry. Your mother's sorry. Can we just move on now? Fix it? No. You're being childish. No, Dad. I'm being finished. He hung up. 20 minutes later, a text from a number I didn't recognize. You just ruined my life. That car was everything. You're supposed to be my brother. Tyler. Blocked. By the end of the day, the safety net I had built for them, thread by thread, was completely gone. Saturday morning, the SUV disappeared from the driveway. I didn't go watch. I didn't need to. I knew exactly how it ended. Saturday afternoon, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Pink envelope. Flowery paper. The handwriting was unmistakably my mother's, perfect cursive, just a little too tight. I stood at the counter, opened it slowly, already guessing the tone. Marcus, I don't know what has happened to you, but you are not the son I raised. You've become cold, cruel, and selfish. We gave you everything growing up, and this is how you repay us? By humiliating your brother and abandoning your family? We are hurt. We are disappointed. But mostly, we are heartbroken. Do not contact us again until you are ready to apologize and make this right. Love. Mom. I reread it twice. Then I slid it into the manila folder marked Family Correspondence, Post-Fallout. No tears. Just ink and paper now. That evening, I went for a long walk around the neighborhood. No headphones. No distractions. Just me, my breath, and the sound of someone pressure washing a patio 3 blocks away. I didn't feel anger anymore. Not really. What I felt was disorientation. Like I had been walking in one direction my whole life, only to realize the road had always been a treadmill. They had convinced me I was lucky to help. That being the strong one meant being a constant giver. And I had believed them. But strength isn't just bearing weight, it's knowing when to set it down. By the time I got home, there was another voicemail. This one from my aunt. Marcus, honey, I don't want to get in the middle of this, but I thought you should know. Your parents are really struggling. Mortgage payment bounced. They're behind on utilities. And Tyler moved back in. Your mom asked me for a loan. I paused. Did you give it to her? No. I told her I couldn't. Good. She hesitated, then said, I'm not picking sides. But I just wanted you to know. Thanks for telling me. Click. I sat on the couch for a long time after that call. My phone buzzed again, this time a calendar reminder I'd forgotten to delete. Family dinner, Sunday, 5 p.m. I laughed. A real laugh. One of those sharp exhales that comes out like a bark. I clicked delete and poured myself a glass of wine. Sunday came and went. No calls. No voicemails. Just silence. And it was glorious. Monday morning, I woke up before my alarm and went for a run. The cold air burned my lungs. My legs ached. But I kept going. I made it 3 miles before stopping. My shirt was soaked. My heart was hammering. And I felt alive. By Wednesday, a new email. Subject, legal notice, action required. It was from a law office. Not mine. Theirs. A demand letter. Accusing me of abandoning long-standing financial responsibilities, and warning that if I didn't resume support payments, legal action would follow. I blinked at the phrase. Support payments. Like I was an ex-husband with alimony. Like helping with the mortgage, the utilities, the SUV, they were court-ordered instead of guilt-coded. I forwarded the email to the family law attorney I'd quietly hired back in December. Her reply came within an hour. They don't have a case. No legal obligations. No contracts. You were generous, not responsible. It's laughable. Ignore it. If they try to file, we'll bury it. I printed the letter anyway. Added it to the folder. It was incredible, really. I had said no once. Just once. After 6 years and nearly 90 grand. And they had turned that one boundary into betrayal. They weren't mourning the loss of me. They were mourning the loss of access to me. And access had officially been revoked. March rolled in like a second chance. No more letters. No more calls. The legal threat had evaporated as quickly as it arrived, and with my lawyer on standby, I finally allowed myself to exhale. Not just a breath, but a deep, anchoring release, like I had been holding my ribs closed for 6 straight years. I started running in the mornings. Not to train. Not to punish myself. Just to run. 3 miles turned into 4. Sometimes 5 if my knees felt generous. I'd pass neighbors I'd never noticed before, little coffee shops I'd meant to try, buildings I'd never really looked at. It was like waking up in a city I'd lived in for years but never truly seen. I joined a book club. First meeting was awkward, but by the second I was laughing at a guy named Phil who kept calling Dune Star Wars for engineers. He wasn't wrong. I took a pottery class. Bad at it. Like, genuinely terrible. My mug looked like it had survived a minor explosion. But I brought it home and placed it proudly on my windowsill. Then there was Alyssa. She worked in finance at my company. Different floor, different building, but we'd crossed paths during a company-wide meeting about optimizing vendor audits. Romantic, I know. We went for coffee after work one day. Then dinner. Then another dinner. She liked documentaries about failed expeditions. She snorted when she laughed too hard. She asked questions. Real ones. One night, I told her the entire story. Not for pity. Just to see if I could speak it out loud without flinching. When I got to the part about the forged signature, she didn't gasp. She just shook her head and said, "Jesus, that's a whole Greek tragedy in khakis." It made me laugh harder than I had in months. I don't know what this thing with Alyssa is yet, but it feels good. It feels light. My apartment feels different too. Lighter. Like it no longer has to carry the weight of my parents' mortgage inside it. No more guilt stuck between couch cushions. No more quiet dread humming under the fridge motor. One night in late March, I sat out on the balcony with a glass of wine and looked out at the city. The lights were starting to blur into the horizon, and the air had that soft, early spring chill. I thought about the banner. "Congrats on the new car, Tyler." How loud it was. How proud they were. How invisible I'd been standing under it. I thought about the phrase that started it all. "He actually earns happiness." They really believed that. That joy was something you earned by charming people. Not by showing up. Not by grinding. Not by paying the bills when no one else could. They had made stable sound like a flaw. But I wasn't invisible anymore. I had chosen something I never had before, myself. I pulled out my phone. Opened the Notes app. Typed, "I am not the wallet anymore." Saved it. Set the phone down. Somewhere, my family was still probably struggling. Mortgage late. Utilities in red. Tyler complaining to someone that life wasn't fair. But none of that was my problem now. I had built them a lifeboat out of my own skin. And I had finally learned how to swim. The SUV was repossessed on a Saturday. I didn't watch it happen. I didn't need to. The dealership had emailed me a final notice confirming the vehicle had been returned, keys handed over by a visibly distressed buyer. Their words, not mine. The loan had been cancelled. The forged signature, mine, officially expunged from all records. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like closure. In April, I got one final letter. Typed. Not handwritten. No floral stationery. Just a blank white envelope with my name printed neatly on the front. The return address was my parents', but the sender line read, "David Hollis. Just my father. Marcus. We've had time to reflect. Your mother and I both have. Things were said that can't be unsaid. Decisions were made that you have every right to be angry about. This is not an apology letter. I won't insult your intelligence by pretending one paragraph can undo 6 years of taking advantage of your generosity. But I do want you to know, we noticed. We always noticed. The mortgage checks. The late-night transfers. The time you drove 4 hours to replace Tyler's alternator in the middle of winter. We didn't say it then, but I'll say it now. You held this family together. Even when we didn't deserve it. We were wrong. About the money. About Tyler. About you. Your mother still believes you'll come back around. I don't know if that's true. But if one day you do decide to talk again, my door is open. Dad." I read it 3 times. Then I folded it and placed it in the same folder as everything else: evidence, voicemails, text screenshots, transactions. It didn't undo anything. But it was real. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I was finally at peace. In May, Tyler posted a story on Instagram. He was working at a car rental kiosk at the airport. Wearing a shirt that didn't fit, name tag crooked, forcing a smile. Caption said, "Hustle never stops." He still hadn't unblocked me. I wasn't surprised. I moved into a new place in June. Still in Columbus, just farther from everything that felt like obligation. 2 bedrooms again. One I turned into an actual office. No folders labeled family fallout in this one. Just real work, real peace. Alyssa came over one night and saw the ceramic mug I made in pottery class sitting on the shelf. "This thing looks like it survived an explosion." "It did." "Me." She laughed. "You've got a new favorite quote." I smiled. "I did." August brought a job offer, senior operations manager at a firm in Chicago. Higher salary. Full relocation. I said yes. Not because I needed to leave, but because I could. Because the road ahead finally felt like mine. I left the folders behind. Not in the trash. Not in bitterness. Just filed away in a locked drawer, in a fireproof box, under my birth certificate and passport. Not to forget, but to remember the cost of silence. The last time I saw my family in person was at that birthday dinner. My father smiling with a beer in his hand. My mother carrying a cake with my brother's name on it. Tyler bragging about an SUV bought with money he never earned. The banner. The balloons. The wait. That night, I walked out with nothing but my keys and a gift bag no one opened. I had spent 6 years giving. I spent 1 week reclaiming. And now? Now I'm building. Not for them. Not in place of them. For me. I'm not the wallet anymore. I'm Marcus Hollis. And I finally understand what happiness actually costs. And why it's never for sale. Update. 8 months later. Hi, it's Marcus. Figured it was time to give an update, partly because a few old friends reached out after hearing bits and pieces, and partly because I want to mark this down for myself. Something real. Something I can look back on and say, "Yep, that happened. And I'm still here." So here it is. I moved to Chicago. Took the promotion. The new job's everything my old one wasn't, challenging in a good way, filled with people who don't expect me to be anyone's financial crutch. I've got my own team now. I even decorated my office. Actual plants. Framed prints. No folders marked. Disaster containment. Just work I'm proud of. I'm still with Alyssa. Somehow, she didn't flinch when I told her everything last winter. She's calm, thoughtful, a little sarcastic in the best way. When I told her my parents had filed a fraud complaint against me in February, and then ghosted the lawyer once they realized I had documentation, she just raised an eyebrow and said, "Sounds like they should have hired an operations manager." We laughed for 10 minutes. Tyler sent me one email. That was in July. Subject line: "Can we talk like brothers?" The message? 2 sentences. "Mom and Dad are selling the house. Things are bad. You won. Hope you're proud." I didn't reply. Not because I was being petty. Because there was nothing left to say. They still haven't apologized. Not really. Not fully. My dad's letter back in April was the closest anyone came to real accountability. And I'll give him credit, he tried. But it's hard to build a bridge when only one side is pouring concrete. As of today, I've had 0 financial transactions with my family in 8 months. That's the longest stretch since I was 24. The first 2 months felt like withdrawal. You don't realize how much being that responsible one wires into your identity until you cut the wires. I'd get anxious opening my banking app, half expecting a surprise bill or another overdraft email from their end. But slowly, the silence turned into peace. My savings are climbing. My shoulders don't feel tight all the time. I sleep. I took a vacation in August, first one in years. Iceland. Hiked in the rain. Ate something that might have been fermented shark. No itinerary. No guilt. Just me and a camera and a sky that stayed lit till midnight. When I got home, I made one final spreadsheet. Not for them. For me. 1 tab. 1 line item. Freedom, priceless. I don't know if I'll ever reconnect with my family. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I just don't owe them anything anymore. And that's the update. Thanks for reading. If you're in a situation like mine, I hope this reminds you, you can walk away. You're allowed to choose peace. Even if it costs everything you were taught to accept.